Hey, good morning, everyone. It is 6 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It's Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 30 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Shane and Tom on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. And Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor in the house. And we're excited to be here with you this morning. And thanks for joining us. And Shane, are you there? You look like
I'm here and I can hear you. And can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, but you're frozen.
Yeah, so are you. You're a night in the darkness or the
Okay.
darkness.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, as long as we can hear each other, I guess that's all right. Maybe the Skype will clear itself up after a while. But
Yeah,
yeah, we're sitting here kind of, well, semi-flying blind.
yeah. We can hear, but we can't see. Oh,
Yeah, we
that's
can hear,
bad.
but we can't see. Well, as well, if that's the only thing that goes bad today, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I
Yeah,
gotta say,
exactly.
you're right. Let's take a quick look at our weather. We're looking for a fairly nice day today. 59 degrees will be the high, 35 the overnight low, mostly sunny all day. And then we get a great weekend coming up. 63 on Saturday, 38 the overnight low, partly cloudy, and no chance of precip in there. And Sunday, again, 64 and 39 the overnight low. AM clouds and PM sun. Might get a little moisture later in the day after sundown and overnight. And then into your Monday commute, 51 degrees and light rain will be falling. And 34 degrees will be the overnight low. Tuesday, 50 degrees and 33 the overnight low, partly cloudy. Virtually no chance of precip there. And then on Wednesday, partly cloudy, 46 the high, 30 the overnight low, and very little chance of precip there. So the rest of the week, we're going to be partly cloudy, mostly sunny, whatever, in the 50s. Well, we'll be in the high 40s, low 50s, sometime dipping into the 60s. So looks like a pretty good weekend coming up ahead for us. Temperatures around the area right now, Livingston is 33 degrees, Manhattan's 27, Three Forks is 25. Gallatin Gateway is 31. Ennis is 23. Gardner, 24 and clear there. Big Sky, 18 and clear there as well. And over at the airport in Belgrade is 29 degrees right now and clear. And we're right at 29 degrees in our studios here in beautiful downtown Bozeman. So that's your weather at 8 minutes after the hour. And pretty nice. Pretty nice weather ahead. So we're
Oh
excited.
no, you mean now I get to hear you chippy and cheery because of the weather?
I got to be chippy and cheery because of the weather, you know.
Oh no.
What can I tell you?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, on this day in history, 1802, Washington, D.C. was incorporated. 1776 all the way up to 1802 to get Washington, D.C. an incorporated area.
Yeah, it's the Residency Act of 1790, officially titled the Act for Establishing the Temporary and Permanent Seat of the Government of the United States, was a U.S. state's federal statute adopted during the second session of the first United States Congress. Wow, they got it done. And signed into law by President George Washington on July 6, 1790. The land it's on the Potomac River on the East Coast, as we all know. The land was donated to the government by Maryland and Virginia. Didn't use up all the land, so they did return the land Virginia gave them in 1791. And so 1846, Congress returned the land originally ceded by Virginia. So there you go. You've got one of the most magnificent cities in the world of granite, with tourist attraction that no one's ever seen, 20 million annually. Even beats Montana.
Wow. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's very cool. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, now
there
we're back.
we are. You're back. Hey, there he is. He's
Da,
back.
da, 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 da.
He's back and moving.
Exactly. Yeah.
There he goes. Yeah. All right. I got to put you back up here where you belong, up by the camera. So we're kind of, well, come on. You're not moving. Come on, move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
No,
here.
I'm moving. I'm moving.
Yeah.
But it won't. I can't reduce it. I can't minimize it. There. Now it should work.
Yeah.
Did you minimize yours?
There we go. Now we're clicking.
We're cooking here.
There we go. Yeah. All right. I like it.
It's a breakfast cook-off. Okay, all I have are cookies. I just have cookies.
Yeah, cookies. All right. 1898, Israel founder and Prime Minister Golda Meir was born Goldie Mababovich in Kiev, Ukraine. She's from the Ukraine. I had no idea she was from there. So there you are, a Russian Jew.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And her father moved to moved to New York City in 1903, and they settled in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He worked for the railroad, I believe, and she became a U.S. citizen, not U.S. citizen, but a U.S. school teacher.
Wow.
So yeah, she was a school teacher when she returned to Israel after it was established. And of course, the fascinating thing is she was the third prime minister of Israel.
Yeah, yeah. And quite a successful one at that. She went through some hard times.
7-Day War with Moshe Dayan, wiped out the Egyptian Air Force.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was a hammer, man. She got it done.
Yeah, she did. Well, 1919, folk singer Pete Seeger was born in New York City. A great volume of work from Pete Seeger, and quite a musician and singer. And let's see, 1921, West Virginia imposed the first state sales tax, and we've been going downhill ever since.
That's right.
Except for Montana.
Yeah, exactly.
And three or four other states, I think.
The fascinating thing about this issue, it wasn't a federal issue because there'd been a self-determination after income tax, somewhere in the ruling, that state tax or sales tax was to be governed at the state level, not the national level. So there you go.
Yeah,
I think the Supreme Court, I could be wrong. I haven't checked it, but I should. But in their original ruling about it being income tax being
temporary,
unconstitutional.
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah, they stated that the only sales tax that the Constitution would provide for is for states. So away they went, and it's never turned back. Of course not.
Of course not, yeah. Well, in 1936, Baseball Hall of Famer Joe DiMaggio made his major league debut with the New York Yankees, played with them his entire career, and still holds the record for 56 straight games with a hit. And that may never be broken. That's half the season. So, I don't know. It's pretty tough to do that with today's pitching. Even tough to do it with the pitching they had then, but that's okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a record, yeah.
Well, he just, and Marilyn Monroe, baby.
Yeah, I got to marry her, and boy, tell you, pretty good life, huh?
Yeah, I think he had it all. He definitely, for an Italian, he definitely had it all.
He did all right. Well, in 1937, Margaret Mitchell won a Pulitzer Prize for her novel Gone with the Wind, and made into one of the highest grossing movies of all time, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And I believe it was the same year that Wizard of Oz was
Wizard
made.
of Oz, yeah, golden age of Hollywood, yeah.
I think it was 37, and then they did.
It's a Wonderful Life, too, I think was in there.
Yeah. The amazing time of, it was the golden age of Hollywood.
It was, no question, yeah. Yeah, in fact, they It's a Wonderful Life premiered in June of all times to bring
amazing,
out. Yeah. I don't know.
Go figure, right?
I don't know what they were thinking then. 1948, the Supreme Court ruled that covenants prohibiting the sale of real estate to blacks and other minorities were legally unenforceable. So, that you couldn't prevent the sale of real estate to blacks or other minorities.
Well, another loss for the Democratic Party of the South.
Yep.
And a big win for, a minority, the African-American minority in the United States. It's sad to reassert something as terrible as slavery, but, the Democrats of the South have tried since, the Civil War to do all, Jim Crow laws.
Oh, yeah.
These historical, common law covenants they used was to prevent African Americans from owning property.
Yeah.
But, it finally got settled with Johnson, with the Civil Rights Act. Because there was one done right after the war, as we know.
Right, yeah.
So there was really a Civil Rights Act since after the Civil War, but Johnson had to pen it again. But yeah, it's incredible. It took a Democrat to shut down the Democrats.
Yeah. I tell you.
Well, no, the reason it's important is because the Republicans are the ones that passed his legislation. The Democrats wouldn't vote for it.
Yeah. Yeah, in 1960, the musical Fantastics opened off Broadway, beginning a record run of nearly 42 years. 42 years of doing the same show, Shane. I don't know. Are we ever going to do that? Of course, we don't do the same show every day. We did,
Oh, no. Well, people might think we do the same show every day.
Well, but I was thinking about that. You show up for work and you're going to say the same words every night. I mean, after a week, I think that gets pretty old.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you think?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Don't you start throwing some ad libs in or something after that? I don't know.
Well, we just have.
Well, anyway, we've got to take a break and take care of our farmers, ranchers, cab drivers, truck drivers, and all those people. We got Headwaters Livestock as well, and the podcast folks too.
Sure.
So, all right. So you're making all kinds of beepy noises. What's going on?
Trying to make Skype work again.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll be right back right after this. 23 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It is Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 30 degrees outside. Shane and Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor in the house. And we want to welcome you to the KMMS Morning Soapbox. We're here every morning from 6 to 9, and happy to have you along with us. Thanks for starting your day with us. We're happy to be here and happy to have you along with us. And looking at, we're counting down the things that happened on this date in history. 1971, anti-war protesters began 4 days of demonstrations in Washington, D.C., and that was quite a tumultuous time in 1971 as the war was winding down. It'd be a couple more years before the truce was signed between the United States and the Republic of Vietnam. Mm-hmm. But
well, it was a bit overwhelming, and a lot of it had to do with the baby boomers. The children of the Great Generation that won the Second World War, and there was such a development of consumption, in your economy, and it spilled over because parents at that time wanted their kids to basically have everything, and because a lot of men came back on the military plan to go back to college and saw the usefulness to it, they wanted their children to go to college too. Right. Yeah. So those things combined resulted in a lot of kids coming out of high school into college and starting the whole different view of what entitlement was and what white privilege was to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There you are. 1971, the National Public Radio program, All Things Considered, made its debut. Not really familiar with All Things Considered, but I guess they considered all things.
They did consider all things. That's right. Very well put.
Good for them.
Indeed.
Sort of like the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane.
You got it. Yeah.
We consider all things here too. So.
Yeah, with a little bit more interest, I would like to
Well,
think.
That's true. I mean, we're not as boring as NPR. Oh, God, I hope we're not. Please call us. Please call us if we are, because I don't know. We got to do something. 1988, the White House acknowledged that First Lady Nancy Reagan had used astrological advice to help schedule President Ronald Reagan's activities.
Yes, Joanne Quigley became a great friend of the First Lady, and she was an astrologer from California. And this came out of the attempted assassination of her husband. She just loved him so much and almost lost him. And the only person that bothered her the most was the Chief of Staff, Reagan, who became Secretary of Treasury after she threw him out of the White House because he didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of books have been written about this. It's a pretty interesting thing. She would Joanne Quigley basically give the Chief of Staff the days that Trump shouldn't travel, could travel.
Reagan, not Trump.
Reagan. I'm sorry, Reagan couldn't travel, could travel, and
who to meet, who not to meet.
And should stay home. Yeah, who not. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Yeah. Well, hey, we should do that. We should days we shouldn't be here. Days we should be
Oh,
here.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We should
Well,
do that.
the other great story about her being so protective was Strom Thurmond was a major senator at the time in the United States, and he was a Democrat from South Carolina, and member of the KKK. And when the president got shot, he came into the hospital because he wanted to go see the president was alive.
Right, yeah.
25th Amendment. And it was really amazing because he tried to get by the Secret Service by saying, oh, he's a personal friend of mine, and I'm a major senator, and I have every right to be here. And she walked up, not to him, but the head of the detail, and said, throw his ass out. And he did. He's Strom Thurmond out of the hospital. I love it.
Oh, quite a time in history.
Yeah,
it certainly was.
Those are the kind of stories you like to tell.
They are, yeah. 2005, Iraq's first democratically elected government was sworn in after the, a long way from 2001 to 2004, getting that done. And, I don't know. We were talking the other day, Shane, as you know, about regime change. And, I can't think of a single place it's worked where we've tried it.
No.
Antarctica, maybe. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And, they're good at overthrowing people like 72 times in the last 75 years. But they're not very good about helping. It's like this situation in Venezuela we talked about yesterday. They want to get rid of a guy who's a dictator and replace him with a socialist. I mean,
I know, yeah. Great, well, Germany's probably better off than it was when we left. I would say they may be the only one where regime change worked very well. But I don't know about places like Panama, Grenada rather, whatever. 2007 astronaut Wally Schirra died at age 84, and quite a hero of the day of the space program. 2007,
Gemini 7, December 65. He flew, and he was one of the original 7 astronauts, which makes it really remarkable that he had such a great long life. I mean, at 84, man. Do you think you'll make 84? I said, no way, I'll make 84.
No way. I don't know.
20 years more.
Yeah.
20 more years of this with you?
Yeah, right. No way. 2010, the Times Square bombing suspect Faisal Shirzad was apprehended aboard a flight preparing to depart New York for Dubai. And we got that guy. So, the first bombing of the World Trade Centers, I guess, back then. So, or Times Square bombing anyway, not the World Trade Center. Sorry, getting those two confused. So, all right, we got to pay a couple bills. We got Montana State News. We got Fox News back. We've got Brooke Foster Weather. We got Jacobus. We've got Ethos. We've got Mountain Hot Tub. We've got it just goes on and on. We'll be right back with more Morning Soapbox right after this. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 29 degrees outside. Shane Montalban on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. Tom Eagle up, your morning mayor in the house. And this is the Saturday morning. What am I doing, Shane? It's Friday.
I love it.
This is the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Do I just want it to be Saturday? Is that my problem?
I think so. Yeah.
That must be it. Well, hey, Shay, we got the job report out, and it is crushing expectations. Amazing. The official jobs report out Friday show that hiring remains strong in April and that wage growth picked up. Economists surveyed by Bloomberg forecast that the Bureau of Labor Statistics will say the U.S. added 190,000 non-farm payrolls last month, and on average, non-farm payrolls increased by a solid 180,000 per month in the first quarter, and unemployment rate will hold at 3.8, the lowest in 5 decades. And that could push wage growth higher as companies compete for workers. Average hourly earnings are seen raising 0.3% after slowing in March, though increases have been softer than what economists would expect with the current unemployment rate. So strong results would offer further evidence that a weaker period of hiring early in the year was just monthly noise and not the start of a downward trend. Hiring rebounded in March, with the U.S. adding the 196,000 jobs after slowing to a near standstill in the previous month. So good news on the job front. People are making more money and more people are working. So that's a good thing.
It is, and it makes it very difficult, for the Democrats. I mean, is Biden going to get up again and say, "Oh, have to be more of a moral country and have, whatever"? I mean, I'm going to make it more moral. It's not moral to be rich or whatever. It just makes it so hard for them to say anything.
Well, yesterday he got 4 Pinocchios from the on something he said about
China.
Well, no, I was talking about the taxes. You didn't get much of a tax break. Did you see the tax increase you got, or the tax rebate you got, and all of that? And so they kind of took him to task on that. That it wasn't a lot, but the big thing was the corporate taxes coming down, which hired more people, and that's evident by the unemployment report, and more people working, or unemployment lowest in 5 decades. And
reinvestment.
And reinvestment back into the companies. We've got companies opening plants up again in Michigan. We've got plants opening around the country, and some people are coming back from overseas. So not a bad thing. So we're all things considered, we're looking better than we did just a few years ago.
I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 million new manufacturing jobs by 2020. You're already over 600,000, right?
Yeah, no, it could be very well happen. Yeah. Well, Madison River, it just won't go away. It just keeps on flowing, Shane. The committee fails to reach a consensus, and they're just going to go away. They're just going to let the Madison hang on its own, I guess. They couldn't come to a compromise on regulations to ease crowding, where boats should be, where boats shouldn't be. They've got no clue, and they voted to continue, and that process failed. So they're just going to go home and, I guess, oil up their poles and get ready to face the masses out there on the.
I think they should have considered, when you go to the motor vehicles department, you have to take a number, get in line.
Yeah.
They should have figured that they should put those on trees out by the Madison, or bushes or posts. And people you take a number where, and then have spaces on the river numbered for people to use.
Yeah. From our text line, 478-8298. Didn't you know the good economy was all because of Obama? Oh, my God. That is the best joke I've heard in ages. So, yes, we heard that joke. Well, I don't know. Boy had 8 years to get her done and didn't. So, yeah. So anyway, getting back to the Madison River, I don't know what they're going to do. The agency hasn't decided if it will draft a new plan for the Madison, but the issue the committee was meant to address isn't going away. So Thursday's meeting ended months of contentious talks that wrangled anglers, fishermen, outfitters, and the entire town of Ennis. So
that's
there you are. You got everybody on your bad side down there over the Madison River. So, well, we hope that'll straighten out, and we hope that people will be respectful of each other's space as they fish down there, boat down there, or recreate down there, whatever it is they do. And
when you're fishing, it's truly a quiet. It's truly a safe space. It should be safe space.
Well, it should be. Yeah, you don't want everybody smacking each other with fishing rods or fillet knives or whatever.
Exactly.
Can't have that.
Yeah, no, can't have that.
No, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 14 minutes for the top of the hour, Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 29 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And, well, the state threatens to revoke the host of Yellowstone Club liquor licenses. Shane, the whistleblower, told an inspector that alcohol was loaded into U-Haul trucks and hidden in a nearby parking garage the day before the inspector arrived. So there you are. The state has threatened to deny a liquor license and revoke 4 existing licenses for bars and restaurants inside the Yellowstone Club after finding it illegally served alcohol, then hid the booze in a parking garage. So you got to give them credit, man. You got to give them credit for that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing what people will do.
It also filed notice to deny an application for the Boot Room and Buffalo Bar and Grill. The action comes after Hans Williamson, a liquor license manager for the Yellowstone Club, applied for an all-alcoholic beverage resort license. An inspector met with Williamson on January 16th at the Boot Room and Buffalo Bar and Grill. The inspector found 2 restaurants did not have alcohol on the site and met state requirements for the license. After the inspection left, the state received a report that the restaurant sold alcohol from the day they opened on December 15th, according to Revenue Department documents detailing the alleged violations. Nothing like keeping records of your crime.
And the timing couldn't be better for the Beer for Good event. You know, drink for a cause at the 3rd annual Bozeman Craft Beer Week.
Yeah, there you are.
Wow, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. From our text line, 478-8298, regarding the Madison River, problem is regulations. FWP wants to regulate who can float fish and use the river. No one in Ennis wants that. Half the commission is non-resident. Most are out of state. And anything the government touches gets blanked up.
Yeah,
so let them regulate themselves. I would agree with that. I would think the people of Ennis or that area, get some local people there, some local fishermen that know the area and, that are boaters or fishermen or whatever, and sit down and let them hash it out.
Yeah, let them work it out.
Yeah, it seems dumb to bring in people from out of state and other places to, we wouldn't want people from Washington D.C. coming into Montana telling us what to do, would we?
No. But it's a fair issue because the beautiful rivers you have, Madison, Jefferson, and so forth. Yeah. They're not very wide and they're not that deep.
Yeah.
So having people floating down the river when people are casting from one side of the shore or from the shore,
mm-hmm.
it does create issues, and so it's a reasonable concern. It's a reasonable.
Well, sure.
Concern.
Well, on both parties, one party wants to enjoy the river in a boat, and the other party wants to, doesn't want the fish running all over the place, scared of the boats. So
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we talked yesterday, Shane, I think, about a new hotel down on Tracy and Mendenhall. Well, we got another one. We got another one coming up on East Main. A 4-story job is going up. Developers filed plans with the city for a new hotel on East Main. It'll be called the Bozeman Residence Inn Hotel. Plan calls for a 4-story structure with 104 rooms, 93,000 square feet total. Plans show a barbecue patio, pool, spa area, and Black Ridge Companies is listed as the developer. Morrison Merrily is listed as a representative, and JBL LLC with the Locati Architects email address is listed as the property owner, although Locati is working on the project as the architects. So we'll see how that goes. And it's also Locati recently filed plans for a 45,000 square foot commercial building, also on East Main, just down the street from the Bozeman Residence Inn, on the other side of Locati Architects' offices. So the building could likely include a restaurant or cafe, offices, retail space, all of those things. So we got a lot of construction going on here, Shane. The place is growing, I guess. So got more hotels coming in downtown, and got a music venue going in out on 7th Street, and I don't know.
Well, if you like the traffic congestion now, just think it's going to get better.
Oh, I can't wait.
Worse.
Well, what were we talking about yesterday? Truck traffic on Main Street and whatever. Well, they're gonna have quite a time here, so we'll see how that goes. So, If you've been downtown lately, you might notice some barricades around the Garage restaurant down there. Big changes are coming to that longtime restaurant. They're closed they closed in mid-April for remodeling to add beer and wine and a rooftop patio. And it's going to open with a new name. Owners expect it to reopen in July as Shine Beer Sanctuary. All right, it's a sanctuary spot. So, with a bottle shop and 30 beers and at least 4 wines on tap, and so they will see how that goes.
There you go.
Yeah.
A safe spot where you can drink beer. That's great.
And La Perella, the burrito shop on West Babcock, will also move into the space, and elements from the Garage, like the Soup Shack, will remain. There are plans for a new restaurant to open under the Garage brand at another location. So we'll keep you apprised on where and when that will happen when that's known. But the Garage has been open since 2001, has mostly stayed the same until now. Yeah, if you've ever eaten there, they have good soup and good sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah.
Outdoor dining's pretty nice in the summertime, and it's kind of there on the corner. Parking's not the best, but where is it in Bark?
That's right.
In Bozeman. So we'll see. Well, yesterday on our website at KMMSAM.com, we reported a Belgrade man died while driving down Jackrabbit Lane on Thursday, causing his vehicle to veer off the road and strike a power pole. He was 37 of Belgrade, died of a medical condition before the wreck, according to the Sheriff's Office news release. Yeah. And Montana Highway Patrol trooper was traveling south on Jackrabbit about 6:45 when his car went off the road near the intersection of Cameron Bridge Road. Moore said Melson's car hit a pole and rolled, and he was the only person in the car. So, and we also had someone, they think it, from what we understand, it was a suicide by semi, that the person was killed on I-90, and the 42-year-old man ran into traffic and was hit by a Freightliner driving west toward Belgrade. The man died at the scene, and they said the 56-year-old truck driver from Callaway, Minnesota, tried to swerve clear of the man, but was unsuccessful. The man hit the right front side of the truck, and the patrol and the driver was not suspected. The patrol said the driver was not suspected of being under the influence of alcohol or drugs and didn't think he had been speeding. So it was, and they closed that side of the freeway for several hours while they investigated. So quite a story, I guess.
Yeah, it's a sad story.
It is a sad story. Yeah,
but we got to cover those too because it's real news.
Well, yeah, we do. Unfortunately, it's sad anytime there's a loss of a life. We certainly don't like that, and particularly when if it was a suicide by semi, then it's sad that someone didn't see red flags or try to get that person help if that was in fact the case. So. Well, let's see. A Montana Commissioner of Political Practices is asking Gallatin County District Court to dismiss a lawsuit a Bozeman lawyer filed against him. Matthew Munforton, the lawyer and former Republican state representative, maintains in the lawsuit that Jonathan Maltl, M-O-T-L, legally used public resources as the Commissioner of Political Practices to oppose the 2016 election of Representative Brad Sheeta, Republican of Missoula. So in his request for the dismissal lawsuit, he argued Monforton didn't explain how he was harmed by the action. So they dismissed the case on him. So there we go.
Yeah, you are.
So that's news of the day, I guess.
That's the Bozeman news of the day.
Pretty well covers the Bozeman news of the day, I guess. If we want to talk about anything other than that, we'll be happy to entertain those. Hey, don't forget, if you miss any part of our shows, you can catch them all. Yeah, we record every show, and we're recording right now, and we'll put them up on our website at kmmsam.com or AM 1450 KMMS on your smartphone, and you can access them anytime and listen to us, and you can download them. And currently, Shane, I'm excited to tell you we have 711 downloads of 136 shows. So
how cool is that?
There you are, 711 downloads of the Morning Soapbox, and going back to it went back to February of 2018, I guess, when we were doing the Saturday show. So there's some Saturday shows in there till we were moved over here in November or late November. So we'll see how that keeps going. We should hit 1,000 certainly pretty soon. So that's going to be a big milestone that we'll be happy to celebrate. And we appreciate all of you out there downloading those shows and listening to them and passing them on to your friends and whatever. And the good news is you could be a KMMS insider. Not for 15 cents a day, for 0 cents a day.
That's right.
We're not even making a buck on this, you know. That George Norrie's got that 15 cents a day, coast to coast insider stuff.
I know.
Hey, we're way above that, man. This is too good to charge for.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I couldn't agree more.
There you are. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name? What's going on?
Hey, it's Tim. I know it's early in the morning, so there probably isn't as many people listening. Maybe there are, but this is a little political insert here. They keep beating about the bush whether Bullock's going to run for the presidency or something, but everybody thinks he don't maybe have a good chance, but I think that he might, because if you look at his stature compared to Obama, you can count all their nose hairs most of the time when they got their nose in the air. And Obama always maintained that he could have swam across the English Channel with a 5-gallon bucket of concrete around his neck and not drowned because he could never got his nose down. But anyway, that's just a little comment for the morning.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
See you later. All right, we're way behind. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. It is 6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 31 degrees outside. Jennifer Bordy will join us at 8 o'clock, and maybe we'll be talking a little bit about the Barr testimony. And they think Nancy Pelosi thinks he lied to Congress. So I don't know.
Here we go. Crazy game.
Here we go. It's going to start all over again. Hey, don't forget, we have a new message system for you as well. AM 1450 KMMS. Right next to the Listen to Us little button, you'll see a message button. And we got a message on that button. Bozeman landlords should be ashamed of their greed for the amount of rent they charge. So, wow. Yeah. Well, I can certainly appreciate that, having been a renter for a number of years. It seems like every time you turn around, the rent goes up, and but so do property taxes, and so do a lot of other fees and all maintenance and everything else. But
That's
still,
right.
in all, and unfortunately, in Bozeman, with the students here, and some of the students coming from out of state and being somewhat well-to-do, or their families well-to-do, they will pay a premium for a nice rental. So that kind of affects everybody. And the cost of housing affects rental as well. As the price of housing goes up, so does the price of rentals. So, I'm not defending landlords here, but there are plenty of reasons. Some are legitimate, some are not. Some are greed. Yeah, if I can get
the occupancy rate is the big one. It's 98%.
Yeah,
so there's nothing to rent. So
yeah. So we're not going to lower our prices anytime soon. So yeah, I would say greed certainly fits in there a little bit. So I would. As I say, I'm not going to sit here and defend landlords, but. At any rate, that certainly is something to think about. We've got those. Those.
Well, we should talk to Jeff about this, because it'd be interesting to know what the city commissioner's position is on unknown or illegal, rental units in houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the people that have built them without any kind of city awareness, or doing the work themselves and not getting any checks on it. And it'd be interesting to see how hard they come down on people with illegal rental space. It'd be interesting to ask him about that.
Yeah. Well, we'll try and remember to do that when he's in here on Tuesday. We have a lot to talk to Jeff about all the time. All week long, we get things, What about traffic? What about parking? What about this? What about that?
Yeah.
The streets. We got it all, man.
Indeed.
Yeah. Let's see. 5 things you need to know. We need to get going on that. Trump says in an interview Thursday evening, President Trump said he will try to block former White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying to Congress. I've had him testify already for 30 hours, Trump said, referring to McGowan's interviews with special counsel Robert Mueller and his team. During those interviews, McGahn told Mueller that Trump ordered him to fire the special counsel, but he refused. Trump said if he lets McGahn testify to congressional committees, he would have to let others go before the panel, too. And I would say it's done. He said, we've been through this. It isn't clear how Trump would block him from testifying, but maybe executive privilege or something like that. But that would be a stretch, I think.
Well, and two, we designated this when we talked about it a week ago, and that is that when Mueller was around, he was part of the executive and worked for Trump, and so Trump played it, I don't want to interfere with this, and I don't want to be seen as obstructing anything. So everyone, you go talk, do your job. But now this is a totally different thing. It's between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And I just don't think he wants to set a precedent that they can, haul anybody up there they want. And clearly he has a right under privilege, to tell, to refuse people to, testify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, for the never Trumpers, that is a big red flag. What are you hiding? Whatever. So, should he testify? When it comes to an attorney, we need to ask Jennifer about this attorney-client privilege. If Trump told McGahn to fire Comey, that shouldn't be public news if he's acting as a lawyer, if he's acting in a legal capacity. Now, if he just said go over and fire him, and that's not a legal capacity, or it's not it's not attorney-client privilege, then hey, yeah, it should be out there, and but McGahn didn't do it anyway.
Well, and it gets back to the whole argument, right? Like there's no crime, so collusion didn't happen, and collusion isn't a crime anyway. Well, so I mean, it's over. It's over.
Yeah. Well, plus the president has the right to fire anybody he wants to, anytime, for any reason.
Well, that's right. And when they talk about $37 million being spent, $27 million was by Mueller and his group, and then the Congress, both the Senate and the House, had investigations that they did, and both of those investigations turned up the same response that Mueller made, but nobody paid attention to. And so it's like Congress now, under the Democrats, are redoing the investigation that's already been done by the House and the Senate.
Yeah. Well, the estimated number of sexual assaults in the U.S. military rose almost 38% in 2018 compared to the last time service members were surveyed in 2016, according to a report released by the Department of Defense on Thursday. The anonymous survey has been given every 2 years since 2004, and based on the response received, the military estimates that 20,500 service members, 13,000 women, and 7,500 men experienced a form of assault last year. So in 2016, it was established 14,900 service members experienced some type of sexual assault. There were 6,053 reports of sexual assault in 2018, the Pentagon said. And right now, the odds of a woman in the service between the ages of 17 and 20 being sexually assaulted is a 1 in 8, according to that report. Sad news from the military. So, I don't know.
You know, and not taking away from this, first of all, it's great that people are reporting it, number one, so it's increasing. Yeah. But the other two is, you know, as to the type of sexual assault, you know, that they don't, you know, you need to look at it as to what it was. And,
true, yeah.
Because there's, you know, some things are a lot worse than others, no question about it. But the fact,
you know,
that 7,500 men were sexually assaulted. Wow, that's...
There you go.
There you go.
Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Call you on the air. What's up?
It's time for term limits.
There you go. Well, we got term limits. You walk in the ballot box and you eliminate the term of the guy you don't like.
No, the money rules it. Tom, you know, you and Shane both know that money's ruling it, pretty much.
Well, it
always has, though, and it's never changed. I mean, it's been going on for 200 years. This is not new.
Well, it's time to stop it. It's time to stop it. Let the legislators serve 3 terms, which is 6 years, and the senators serve a term, which is 6 years. And if you can't get something done in 6 years, you shouldn't be there. That's the way I look at it. You know, and we're paying these guys wherever they go. We pay them daily, nightly. We have them the best perks in the world and everything. Now, they got to quit that stuff and treat them just like they treat you and I. They draw their Social Security like you and I, not a pension, you know, and not all these other perks. If they're really sincere, you know, about protecting and helping the country, they would agree to that. And the way it is now, we got a fiasco, and Pelosi comes up and says it's a crime. How many years has she been in there, fellas?
A long time.
Okay. Bird was in there over 40. Does that make sense to anybody out there?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't to me.
Well, the other thing that doesn't make sense is 86% of incumbents are returned.
That's right.
That's right.
I mean,
money. It's money.
Well, it's money, but it's also fear of change is more powerful than expectation of. The fear of loss is more than expectation of gain. So,
I think our founding fathers would roll over in their graves from what I've read.
Oh, they would.
Oh, you know,
no question,
about what they thought and everything. My God, what's going on here? And I feel so bad for Barr. And you got one lawyer talking and questioning another lawyer. Now, what's that say to you about lawyers? Huh? What's that say to you?
That's like two alligators talking, isn't it?
That's right. So what chance in hell do you have of defending yourself in anything? And the interpretations, where do they get their words? And then the interpretation of each one of them words, you know, it says something else. And what they did to Barr, as far as I'm concerned, was the filthiest thing I ever saw in my life. I mean, that was terrible what they tried to do to that man, and he was answering them.
Oh, yeah. He kept his cool. He certainly did.
He sure did. Yep. And I don't blame him for not going back. I wouldn't go back either. That's like walking into a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Because of the elections, you suppose it could be the 2020 elections. You suppose?
Yeah. Well, they're all working. Yeah, they're all working toward the 2020 election. I mean, that's what they're all trying to, make a name for themselves and
that's right.
Ask a question that'll make a sound bite and improve their status up the ladder of the 21 or 2 or however many we got now.
Well, I think of each state, and some individual in each state would start a petition and get it signed legally with everybody to run term limits. The Congress of this United States would have to do it.
Well, it would probably take an amendment of some kind. I would guess.
Well, it would, but that would issue the amendment.
But I think a lot of people would. Go for that, though.
You betcha. I think they would.
Yeah.
The very, very rich wouldn't.
Yeah.
But the normal human being out here, like you and I, would go for something like that.
Yeah. We have term limits here in Montana, and it doesn't seem to. It doesn't seem to affect us negatively in any way.
Well, we have the governor can serve only 2 terms, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And it hasn't. It hasn't. But they haven't. Just think what would happen if he could run forever.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I need to remind both of you that a constitutional amendment to your Bill of Rights is not approved by the people. It's approved by the legislatures of the states.
That's what I said.
True,
the states.
The states will do it.
But it's not. But that's not the people. It's the legislature. So yes, given that if a state's legislature is Republican, both houses, it will probably pass. Mm-hmm. But like Tom says, look, your founders were brilliant. They limited senators to 6 years, and they limited the House to 2. And every 2 years, on the first Tuesday of November, you can vote. So there are already time limits if people want to replace their congressman or senator. And like Tom said, the fact that 80% of them are reelected, that's the problem.
Well, that's because of money.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true. They have the money to put together a thing, and they've got a record to run on. And if people are, if people aren't feeling pain, then they'll send them. Right. They'll send them back as long as I'm not feeling any pain. Yeah, Chester's fine, Daines is fine, Bullock's fine. They're all fine as long as I'm not feeling any pain. But the minute I do, I'm going to make a change.
Well, the people of the state of Montana, the people now can get together, have a petition, go to the legislature, and they would have to pass these term limits in the state. Then go to the federal. That's the way you do it.
Oh, yeah. No, it'd have to be done that way. So,
you know damn well that our legislators that are in Helena and our senators aren't going to do this.
No,
it takes the people, and the people won't get off their butts to do it.
Nope. No, we're too busy watching The Voice and American Idol, come on, and going to the mall.
That's right.
There you go.
Anyway, see you guys.
All right,
Bye.
thanks.
Have a good weekend.
522-TALK is the number. Caller, thanks for waiting. You're on the air. Real quick, what's going on?
No problem, Tom, Shane. I'm going to take the opposite view. This is called speed bump mentality.
Well, it is,
Because you're trying to impose a law that people... I mean, you want to talk about stupid people. Let's talk about Montanans and Pester. How can you buy into that I need to get fire insurance on my house after my house catches fire?
Yeah.
I mean, that's for all you people who don't understand that concept, that's called your no pre-existing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only way pre-existing conditions should be paid for is people who aren't sick paying for it.
Yep, that's true.
So, I mean, term limits to me, it's nice to come up with a speed bump soundbite, but until you get an electorate who will get an education, and you better start in the schools. I mean, how many of them could even pass what we would call a civics course when I was in school?
Yeah.
Mm. So they can't even identify who their vice president is or who their senator is.
It would be interesting to give them a test on how a bill becomes a law.
Yeah, exactly.
Or get them to discuss it with the House of Representatives and the senators.
Well, that's true.
So that's my take is let's quit trying to beat a dead horse because one, it's not going to happen, and two, let's just get the electorate intelligent enough to vote because that's the reason the vote was made, was to get the people involved in the process, not stand back and let somebody make a law to do it for you.
All right. Mm-hmm. Good points.
Thank you, sirs.
Hey, thanks.
Cheers, have a good morning.
All right, thanks. You too. We'll be right back. 23 minutes after the hour. It is, Friday. It's finally Friday, May 3rd, 2019. 36 degrees outside. We're excited to be here on a finally Friday for you. If you're a Monday through Friday person, hey, we'll get you through the morning at least, and the rest of the day is up to you. But we'll get you through the morning part of it. From our text line, 478-8298, we need term limits and require tax returns to be public for all elected officials. What do you think, Shane? Tax returns from everybody?
Well, I don't think there's any big deal about it, but the bottom line is a personal choice right now, and so unless they change the law, personal choice.
Yeah. So... Well, as I've said before, if the IRS doesn't have a problem with Trump's returns, what am I going to find?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Plus, he has to, every year, he and the vice president are audited, and every year they're in office. Plus, every year, Trump has to submit his sources of income to the election committee and the ethics committee. And the financial services committee.
Right, and the thing is it'll never be enough. his personal tax returns, fine. But with regards to the family's business, he's not involved with that anymore, as we've talked about. He's turned that over to his children.
Yeah.
So they really don't have any right to any of that information because it's a very competitive business that he's in. And, you're allowing competitors to find out, what he does and how he does it. And that's just unfair.
Yeah. Well, as I wrote in my blog sometime back, which tax returns do you want to see? If you want to see his personal tax return, that'll show his presidential, salary and, whatever book sales or maybe things like that he's got coming in. And, some, I guess other stuff, but
there's no portfolio because he's already announced. I think he said if my memory's correct, it was like a $750 million personal portfolio I had, and he sold it all.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just not really fair that
Well,
there's nothing there. You and I both know there's nothing.
Well, the corporate tax return would be the place to look. If you're going to look at something, that's where the deals are made, and that's where the Moscow hotel or was or wasn't, or what I did at Mar-a-Lago, was covering the greens. Was that a legitimate expense?
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. But, his corporate returns have to be as tall as I am.
Oh, of course.
I mean,
and we both know it's a political fishing expedition. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Let's see, from our text line, 478-8298, the Montana Constitution has term limits. The federal courts overturn them. There you go. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So talk to those folks. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk to Jennifer. Maybe she knows about term limits.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Also from our text line, any official that can affect tax policy should be required to make their tax returns public. Anyone who resists this is hiding something. Well, that may be true. They very well may be hiding something. So,
but it's just an opinion.
It is.
Again, that's the whole point, right? Yeah. You can't allow the government to go on a fishing expedition to find a process crime. It's just that's not how your system is set up.
Right. Yeah. Well, as I said, if the IRS doesn't have a problem, what am I going to find? I mean, that's their job, And I'm guessing that the president and the vice president don't get a Motel 6 audit.
That's right, exactly.
They get a Four Seasons audit, I'm afraid. I would think. Yeah. Anyway,
you got a caller.
I do. Let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the air. What's up?
Morning, Tom and Shane. How you guys doing today?
Living our dream, man. Living our dream.
It is a beautiful day in Bozeman, Montana.
It is. The sun's shining out there, I see.
Okay, so first, I've had several small businesses myself here in Bozeman, and I can barely understand my return. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
and these guys up there have proven, that they're about as smart as a bag of wet mice. Okay, I don't understand what they think they would glean from Trump's return. They're just fishing is all they're doing. And so that ain't right. Okay. And on the other side of the coin, let's talk about all these senators and congressmen that wind up coming out of Washington, D.C., multimillionaires, when they weren't that way when they came in. I think that's far more important to investigate than any of this other crap that they're trying to pull out of their hat.
Yeah.
We the American people are allowing ourselves to get fleeced here.
Well, I think to a certain extent, you're certainly right. I'm up against the bottom of the hour. I've got to go. I'm sorry.
All right, Tom.
But
hey, that's
thanks.
all I had. Have a good day.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate you listening, and thanks for your input. And I would tend to agree with the caller, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All right. We'll be back. It is 29 minutes after the hour. This is the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane, and we'll continue with the 5 things you need to know and more text messages right after this. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 38 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And boy, the text line is lighting up, Shane, on the term limits. Let's see. If Shane actually believes Trump turned over his business to his kids, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell him and lots of oceanfront property. What do you think, Shane?
How do you respond? I mean, he's done what if he didn't do it or he's somehow involved, that's what the Democrats should be going after, right?
Well, I would think so. I seriously doubt that, Don Jr. or whoever's running the show. I think it's the older kid, not the younger one. But anyway, I would think once in a while over dinner they might talk business. And, what should I do about the hotel in Maui? Pop?
Well, no, wait, because the company announced that during the term of their father's presidency, they're not going to engage in any more negotiations to manage or build hotels because they don't want the conflict to be thrown at the news. So
it would be a conflict of interest there. So it's kind of Well, we've never had a president like this before. We've never had a president that has made billions outside the political spectrum. And that I think is our issue at hand. And, you can go back. Kennedy never released his tax returns. He was certainly wealthy. The family was. He had an interest in the various things. I don't know what he did with his particular personal fortune or what arrangements were made for the family to take over his portion of the business or whatever. So, but we never know that. We never knew that, but nobody ever seemed to say, well, gee, we want to see Kennedy's tax returns. What's the deal?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
Or who he was dating in the White House.
Well, it started with Nixon anyway. Before Nixon, presidents did release their tax returns, but they always released them after they were out of office. Right, after they were gone. So let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you are on the soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
D. Tom and D. Shane.
That's us.
That's awesome, man. This is your buddy Steve-O.
All right, man.
Hey, on this thing, giving your tax return, don't you just feel that's just another red herring ploy by the Dems? Because as long as Trump doesn't submit it, there's got to be something nefarious going on. There's probably shrouded in mystery.
Got to be hiding something.
As soon as he does, they'll try to pick it apart, and when they don't find anything, they'll just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It never ends with these guys. Just like I said yesterday, dog with a bone, enough is enough with all these investigations. I mean, what they did for so long, their strategy never seems to change, and I'm convinced now that they're going to carry this all the way through prior to the election in 2020.
Yeah.
It's just never changed. And, you got Nancy Pelosi up there saying that Barr lied to Congress. I like to feel I'm open-minded and listen to both sides of the argument. Hell, I even listen to what Andy has to say when he calls.
Yeah.
He hasn't called for a while, and see if there's any credence, any merit to anything he has to say. But, I've noticed this when the Democrats make a charge and say he's lied. It's so ambiguous and nonspecific. If I say somebody lied, I'll say what they lied about. I'll give facts and resources. And then, of course, it's my take on it. But overall, I'll present exactly why I think they lied. All these allegations the Democrats make are always ambiguous as heck. For example, I guess maybe you can tell me differently, you guys, what you think, but what do you think Nancy Pelosi was referring to when she said William Barr lied to Congress?
Well, I think she's just cherry-picking parts of his testimony. I haven't heard this.
Exactly, but what specifically?
Yeah, I haven't heard a specific about it. No.
If I go, Tom lied.
Yeah.
You know, Tom's a liar. Tom, he's a liar. He lied.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Anybody that says it, go, about what? I mean, these Dems just get away with this with impunity. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is projection. The whole thing is, but it's all projection. I mean, Pelosi's up there doing this because they know the wall's coming down on him and all of this. And, you know, like, to say that he should go to jail for lying. Well, okay, what about Comey and Brenner and but, you know, I mean, all these guys that lied, why aren't they going to jail then? Pelosi, you're like your own people, you know. Clyburn,
yeah, anybody that disagrees with them should be impeached or fired or you know, so belittled and put down so they've got just a shred of dignity left and maybe so ineffective doing their job because of all their bashing, you know, relentless just game playing. But I think if I understand correctly what Nancy Pelosi was referring to, it's William Barr's summation of the Mueller report.
That's right. Yeah.
And if that's it, that's just thinking, they took that segment on the news and said, you know, we don't like it. It doesn't reflect the full body of the work or scope that the investigations, you know, presented, and also the conclusion that was drawn wasn't full or complete enough. It's William Barr's opinion. There's nothing that he said that was wrong, that was dishonest or deceitful. It was his conclusion. Yeah. And that was his job to come up with a legal conclusion, you know, to what he thought, you know, was in the best interest of the American people. And because they didn't like the summation, impeach him?
Yeah.
But, I mean, they just don't make any sense.
Amen to that.
I think the general American public agrees with you, Phil. Thank you for calling.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, you bet.
We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 13 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 39 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And Shane, we are officially back because there's a rush update today.
That's terrific.
Everything is back. We're streaming on the phone. We're streaming on the computer. Everything is back. We are solid, man.
and a public service announcement for all those fellows out there that want to celebrate Mother's Day. Mother's Day is the biggest restaurant day of the year.
There you go.
So get your reservation in this week for next Sunday for Mother's Day. Otherwise, you will find the restaurants all full.
There you are. From our text line, 478-8298, the more Trump resists showing his taxes indicates that there's something he's afraid of. If he's honest, he'd be bragging about them or with them. And that's certainly a legitimate thought there. If a rich and often corrupt Democrat hid his taxes like a birth certificate, Republicans would be screaming to see them. Party loyalty is a bad thing. Yeah. Well, Trump did want to see Obama's birth certificate, that's for sure. That's right. So got him there. Regarding sexual assaults in the military, I have only known one young woman in the military, National Guard service. She was attacked by a superior. I have a nephew who has joined the Marines and will be going to boot camp this fall. He has become aware that a woman posing as a man will be joining the recruits. This woman will be showering with them, exercising with them, using latrines, whatever. With sexual assault so prevalent, what crazed authority has decided that adding transgenders to the mix is a good idea? My nephew and others will suffer humiliation, or they may drop out. And well, that's always going to be a question. Let's see. It isn't as if the government doesn't know anything about Trump's taxes. The IRS and Mueller has scrapped through every detail. And imagine if it was a crime for a congressperson to lie to the American people. Wow, that's a crime we need. That's for sure. Right. So I wonder what happens with all the booze that was confiscated from the Yellowstone Club. I'm thinking it came from the club. There has to be a bottle of Dom or maybe some cake bread. It's probably good that I'm not an MDOR employee. The evidence might disappear. And let's see, Nancy thinks Barr lied about his conversation with Mueller and his dissatisfaction with Barr's summation. So that's those are the things they think Barr lied about. So that brings us up to speed on our text line for the moment. So if you want to text us, obviously 478-8298 is the number. And we'll be right back with more right after this. 7 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 40 degrees outside. Nice sunny day looking through the control room into Michelle Wolf's Moose studio over there and out on the Mendenhall. It's pretty nice out there, Shane, looking. Michelle's got her blinds open, so we see the traffic flying by, and it looks pretty nice out there. So
indeed.
Yeah. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Tom and Shane, this is Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, about your comment about finding a process crime. That's not what they do. They create a process crime.
Well, try to. That's for sure. Yeah. If we can identify or create a crime, then we can legitimately go after it, I guess.
Yeah. There's no process crime until the process is going and they trip somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, good observation. Thanks, Paul.
You bet.
All right. Take care. All right, from our text line, 478-8298, taxes may be legal but also embarrassing. For example, donations to PACs, Democrats, Republicans are afraid there is damning stuff and want to hide it. So
there you go. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if damning evidence would be donated to Democrats by a Republican president would be grounds for impeachment, but maybe. Your phone went out. Oh, what can I tell you?
That's right.
Yeah, they got that string and got the string and the tin can up there. All right. You're back. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
good.
so let's do the market real quick because it's reacting strongly to these numbers today. Dow's up 127, S&P up 17. Dow's at 26,438, another all-time high. So is the S&P. The FTSE is building strong in Europe. I mean, with Brexit, the FTSE's up, the DAX up, the CAC in France, the IBEX in Spain, and even the FTSE in Italy. Everybody's up. The only people that are looking at a sag in the market today would be Asia. Why not? Shanghai's down, so is the CSI 300 in Hong Kong, and the Shanghai 50 is down. They're very concerned about their issue, but the big story today is crude oil is up 14 cents at 61.89. If you remember, a week ago it was at $66. So I mean,
it's come down quite a bit, and I'm waiting for the gas prices to drop. You know, they go up on an elevator, come down on an escalator.
That's right. You know, Brent is at 70, and it was up at 79. So Russia's making less money. Natural gas $2.55. Your national average gasoline is $2, but keep in mind, there are all those blends out there, 32 in California and 38 blends now for the summer, everywhere around. Gold's come up a bit today to $12.80. Silver is at $14.84. So they've still held in there. And soybeans are at $8.30. Let's see what we got here. Milk is doing well today. And, of course, livestock, feeder cattle and live cattle are doing well. Poultry is holding in there. Copper is soft at $2.82, off from that $3 level they'd like to see it at. $4,191 on steel, down 3, and aluminum is at $1,800. So, all these naysayers talking about, copper or steel and aluminum, they've been wrong all year. Baltic Dry, though, is big, up to $1,000 a day, and so, that's one of those markers that we talk about. And it's interesting in the context of government bonds because the U.S. 10 years at 256, and the U.S. 30 is trying to get back to 3. It's at 294, so it's up a bit today. The interesting currency of the day is the euro. It broke 112, Tom. Now it's 111, breaks 110. It's heading to par with the U.S. dollar. The British pound, though, is plowing ahead strong at 130, and, of course, Canada is at 134, down again.
There you go.
That's it. Here's your market wind-up.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, go to Canada, spend 75 cents for what you'd spend $1 for here. So that's pretty good.
That's right.
From our text line, 478-8298, taxes may be legal, but also embarrassing. I read that one already. Never mind. That won't work. Can't keep repeating the same stuff over and over. Jennifer Bordy's in the house. She'll be talking with us here shortly, and I'm sure she has a plethora of stuff to talk about. She's shaking her head. I got nothing to talk about. I got nothing. So it's going to have to be up to you callers to ask legal questions on Barr and I guess all the political wranglings in the Congress and everything else that's going on up there. So, but we'll be talking with Jennifer here very shortly. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure she will enlighten us legally. She is the law babe after all. So we'll be. She'll be entertaining us for the next hour. She's going, I don't know about all this. She looks like a deer in headlights. There you go. All right. The unemployment rate went down, Shane, again. It was a 3.8. I think it's a 3.6. I heard on the news as I was wandering around. So that's a good thing. And we got a lot... Well, we got a lot of positives out there, so, hey, more power to us. All right.
Indeed.
All right, we're going to duck out here, pay some bills. As I said, we're back. Rush Update's back. Weekend News is back. Fox News is back. Everything's back. We're streaming. We're doing everything we did before we went nuts here last month. So looks like May is getting off to a good start. So Jennifer Bordy will be up next, the Law Talk. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be right back with more right after this. 6 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 40 degrees outside. Jennifer Bordy in the house and Steve White in the house, and we have a topic for the day. We're going to be talking about the bills that passed and the bills that didn't pass of the legislature.
Legislative session.
Yep, past legislative session. So
Let's look at what happened, what didn't happen.
Yeah, who wants to start?
Happened, maybe.
Well, as everybody knows,
Steve White, badbills.com, Jennifer Bordy, law babe in the house.
No longer deer in the headlights. Look about me, right?
Now she knows. Yeah,
law guy. As everybody knows, I was on the radio during the session on Mondays with, oftentimes with the President of the Senate, Scott Sales, and so today I appreciate the invitation just to talk about some general things that a lawyer wants to talk about. It scares me to death that I'm here with a lawyer.
What bills are legal, what bills aren't?
She says, well, that isn't what that bill does. I said, well, I thought it was.
I'll let you know right off the bat, I absolutely have not followed this session like I normally do at all. I mean, it's just been a crazy year for me so far.
Yeah.
So well, I know nothing.
It's been interesting, and I've gotten a lot of positive comments on badbills.com as just the education folks have gotten and learning how the process works. But just as sort of a wrap up with numbers, the statistical side of the legislature, there were 3,307 bill requests entered into the hopper, and that's always kind of a nerve-wracking number because that could translate to a lot of work. That was about 1,000 more than
I was going to say. Usually it's around
2,000.
And
they really.
You got 90 days to do it. So what do you got? 30 bills a day or something like that.
I think and then 2/3 of those are House requests typically, and 1/3 goes to the Senate. But this, I think, I think it's a result of term limits. You got a lot of freshmen in there, and they all think they got new ideas. And you'll have legislators enter in the same request for the same subject, and there's no control over that. And I've always argued there should be some sort of control. But with that 3,307 bill requests, only 1,300 of them became bills. There were 845 House bills and 464 Senate bills. So really only 1/3 of them ever became bills.
What happens that some of them don't become bills? I mean, does the legislative council or the people that draft the bills just say, legislative service, say, we're not going to do that one? Or how did they not become a bill?
Legislative services doesn't really have much power over it. Leadership has a lot of power if those that they talk to will listen. Sometimes they just charge forward and enter something, but oftentimes it isn't indeed duplicates. I'm really frustrated that there's a lot of placeholder bills that are entered in. I think Senator Palmakowski had 47 bills into the hopper, and there were some I've seen as high as 150 bill requests by a single legislator in the past years.
So do you know, though, just by way of an example, of the 47 bills she requested, how many actually became bills?
I didn't look at how many that she actually entered in, but it was a small percentage of that 47. But you can tell what's going on when you look at any legislator's bill request, and it'll say revised taxes, revised taxes, revised taxes, revised taxes. Yeah. And you say, well, what does that really mean? And they become companion bills, which they're kind of a free for all as to what they want to turn them into. But even though you had 1,300 bills that became turned into real legislation that they considered, 680 of them were killed, and they were killed either by the committees or they were killed on the floor. Oftentimes they didn't make the transmittal deadline, which is the 45th day. If they didn't make it across, then they're going to not go anywhere. It's the governor that is got a lot of homework to do. The governor has 10 days to sign bills that get to him, and my count is that he's got probably around 300 that are sitting on his desk. He's got there's 269 that I've counted that have been sent to him or on their way to him, but he's got probably a good 300 that are sitting there. I've counted that maybe he's signed probably around 240 that have turned into law. So you look back to the original 3,300 that were bill requests, and so far there's about 240 that have actually turned into laws. And so there's a lot of things that can go on. It's kind of interesting that you get all these bills that are sent to the governor, and I mean, he has 10 days to consider them, and he's vetoed 6. And looking at some of the titles of some of the bills out there, I think there's going to be some more vetoes. And those are difficult for him to deal with, because when he vetoes, he doesn't just veto it. He actually, I don't know if he's required to do it, but he does. He writes, the governor writes a letter explaining why he vetoed it. So for each veto, he's got to write his reasons why. He can also do, in some cases, do line item vetoes. But now that the legislature's over, that becomes problematic, and that usually is with appropriations and such. It's also complicated that now that the legislature is gone, if he vetoes a bill, they actually can call a special session to override it, or they can be queried whether or not they want to override it. But the ahead of time, they pretty much know which ones he's gonna be in favor of and not. So.
Scott, just out of curiosity,
Steve.
I'm sorry, Steve. I apologize. Steve, my apologies.
That's all right. You're in Canada. That's all right.
Under federal law in the United States, the president has 3 choices. He can veto, he can sign it, or he just doesn't do anything and it becomes law. Is that the case in Montana? If the governor doesn't veto or sign it, it becomes law?
It does in 10 days. Yeah. And so he could just look at all these bills, and a lot of times they don't want to sign it, but they also don't want to veto it. There are some bills that maybe the governor doesn't particularly like. It would be really interesting. In this case, you've got a Democrat in the executive branch, and then in the legislative branch, you've got the Republicans. But he could really take a bill that really came out strong and not want to sign it, and knowing that his veto would get overrode, he would probably just let it go along and become law. Now, the thing, too, that is important for people to recognize is that there are some bills that when they're signed, they become law upon his signature, and they take effect, even though the law books don't come out in October. There are quite a few bills.
If the bill specifies that.
That's what I was going to say, is if the bill specifies when it becomes law, then that's when it becomes law. But if there's no mention of that, and there are plenty of bills that don't say when it's going to become law, becomes law October 1. And that's in Montana law. And so a lot of times I've heard people say, "Oh, well, he signed it; it's enforced." No, it's really not enforced. And if he signs a bill that makes something illegal, then it doesn't retro back and make everything else illegal before it was signed.
So I can commit those crimes as much as I want till October. Is that what you're telling me?
Hurry.
Get a free pass and get out of jail free.
With that said, I'm kind of drifting over into the lawyer world, and I'm kind of.
Although I will say this: if you're talking about criminal laws anymore, the new criminal laws seem to just specifically identify something that was already a crime. Yeah. That for some reason we have to have another law.
We've got to expand it. We've got to expand the definition of it, or something. like that.
So instead of just assault, then we have assault on a sports official or assault on a nurse. Even though assault was already illegal. But anyway.
Well, and then finally, if you just look at the numbers, when you look at that 3,300 bill requests that were put in there of the bills that actually made it out and on their way to the governor, it really ends up to be about 19%. It's a pretty small fraction, and I always reflect on that. And as far as the incoming bills, it was about 40%. So they started out with, a fraction of what they could have had.
Do you think that suggests a flaw in the system or a lot of waste of time, or it's a good system because obviously, as you pointed out, especially new legislators come in and full of energy and they want to get these things done? And
well, it really becomes a surprise to the public. Because first of all, there's a lot of bill requests that there are indeed requested, and they're drafted, and they're actually ready to be introduced. And the legislator pulls back, and either through a lot of opposition from the public or leadership or the governor's office or someplace, they'll pull back and they won't introduce that. That's a frustration because that took time for the drafter to put together the language and such. But it's frustrating that, the public thinks that, that there's going to be this bill and they're all set for it and either they're for it or they're against it, and it never sees the light of day. And if it does become a bill, then, they can, work on it. A lot of times, it doesn't go anywhere. I've seen, a lot of bills that didn't have a chance, that there was a lot of work put on it, and it just didn't go anywhere. And that's just the way it's always been. I mean, it's frustrating that way because there is there's just a lot of work being done by those legislative drafters, and the legislators, they have their ideas. They come to Helena with gangbusters, but the thing people don't realize too,
and they leave with what?
Leave with nothing. But the thing that is really surprising to people is they don't realize that probably in May or June of this year, there will be bill drafts being entered in.
For the next legislative session?
Absolutely. By the end of the summer, you'll see about 100 bill requests for the 2021 session.
Was that done mostly by senators then?
It's by what are called holdover senators. Senators have 4-year terms, and so there's quite a few senators, probably half of them, that don't have to run in the next 2020 election. They're going to be fine. They're going to be in office. Then there are legislator or House members that when there is a race in 2020, that if they don't have a general election, they're permitted to enter in bill drafts as well. So they're unopposed going into the general election. So they're a shoo-in, and so there's respect given to that. So yeah, you start to see all of these bill drafts being entered in, and then the limitations on the numbers that they can put in start to reel it in a little bit as the time goes on, because at the beginning they have a lot that they can put in, and then they start cutting it back. But by then you've got so many sitting out there anyway.
But if you put your bill in that early, does it have a better chance of actually? Well, obviously, it would get drafted, I think, since
it goes both ways. They could you could stir up a hornet's nest because somebody sees something coming and they say, "Oh man, you see, it's already in there," and so they start ramping up to oppose it. Or maybe the opposite is true. They could start, really favoring it. What I've always hoped for was when you see these bill drafts being put in with these descriptions, and some of them are pretty good descriptions, tells you what they're going to do with it. That should be a signal to future legislators that, hey, I don't need to put one in because it's already in. And that doesn't happen. And I'm really frustrated with that. Because there's a rule in the joint rules with House and Senate that if, and I saw this happen with the seatbelt bill once. There was a House bill that was a primary seatbelt law entered in, and there was a Senate bill for primary seatbelt laws. And they did exactly the same thing. The House killed the seatbelt bill, never got out of the House. And then so the senator entered it into the Senate, and they didn't realize it had already been killed. And the rules say that you can't do it again.
All right. We got to take a break, guys. We'll be right back with more with Steve White and Jennifer Bordy and Shane and me right after this. 22 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, Jennifer Bordy in the house, Law Babe, and Steve White, badbills.com. We're talking about the bills. We just had a discussion off air about the primary seatbelt law, and apparently there is not a primary seatbelt law in the state of Montana.
Yeah, they keep trying. Now, if they pull you over for some other reason, that,
and you're not wearing your seatbelt, then
they can get you.
Then
they can give you a ticket. Now, with all that said, I'm a believer of seatbelts and helmets on motorcycles and all that, but whether there should be a law for all of that, I'm not really in favor of that. So.
Okay.
You know, another thing you mentioned off the air, though, which actually came up recently because we were talking about cell phones as well, and a friend of mine who, from when I went to the University of Montana, and then they lived in Southern California most of their adult life, but they just recently built a home in Townsend, and he thought every state in the union had a law against using cell phones.
Oh.
And I said, no, not every state.
Yeah.
And apparently we are one of only two now that doesn't allow, or some of them are just texting. You're not allowed to text while you drive, but most of them you're not supposed to use anything handheld. But Montana's still not like that, although some cities such as Bozeman have passed that ordinance. So.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And that wasn't but a session or two ago that they modified that so the cities could do something like that. So one bill that, well, first of all, the one bill that we followed for a while was Senate Bill 203, and that affects your industry, which is the adding a fourth judge to Gallatin
didn't pass.
County.
That one I followed.
that was an interesting one. Typically, it's
they had to fix Romney Hall.
Yeah, that's right. You got.
They couldn't.
Well, you know what the problem with it is,
though, is a judge when we got the hall there.
That's right.
Trashed.
Statistically, Gallatin County courts never show the vast numbers that other counties have shown, and we even got, when we got the third judge, it was even in light of the fact that statistically we weren't showing the need,
and they weren't even on the list the last time the legislators even considered new courts across the state for the different jurisdictions.
So,
but the thing that was unique about this one was that typically, almost every time, the request for a new judge in a district comes as a result of a list that's assembled by the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justice gives that to the legislators, and then they hear the arguments of which ones that they should add courts to, and Yellowstone County always is on that list, and Flathead and Missoula, and in this instance, the Chief Justice chose not to do it this time, and there was some
not to do it at all.
Correct. He wasn't going to do it, and I guess it was because the legislators were good about honoring the list 2 years ago, and so there was going to be a kind of a lapse, maybe of one session, that nothing would be entered in for request. But with that said, it didn't prohibit individual counties from requesting, and that's what took place. This was an instance where I wasn't so sure that by Gallatin County putting in a request for a judge, if that wouldn't open up the door for all of these other counties that needed judges to all show up also. But that's not what occurred. It was only Gallatin County did the request, and it never made it out of the one of the Senate tax committees because it was an issue of money, and the court is paid for by the state and to a certain degree, and then the county has to provide the housing for that court.
So no judges were added this
No
session.
judges were added. We still have the three that you've got, and there was, there were representatives from Gallatin County that went to Helena and there were a lot of good questions. I heard the questions from the judiciary, and then I think it went to the finance committee, and it was the finance committee that I think deep sixed it. The other one that's interesting too that affects all 56 counties, and that is House Bill 129, and that makes a dramatic change in how counties want to conduct their business as far as elected officials go. Presently, there are some counties that are nonpartisan and some counties that are partisan, which means they run as Democrats or run as Republicans or whatever. Libertarians. Gallatin County is partisan, so every elected official is of a particular party. The only way you can change it is by changing the form of government, and that opportunity is given to the voters to consider changing the form of government every 10 years with the census, and there's no exceptions. This bill changes the landscape. What it does is it allows the county commissioners to vote to give to the voters the decision whether to change from partisan to nonpartisan or from nonpartisan to partisan. They can go either way, and they
without changing the form of government.
Without changing the form of government, and I can't see in the bill if they can do it just for certain county office holders or if they have to do it for all of them. But it could be that the Gallatin County commissioners and other counties they may just decide over the summer to give that question to the voters this November.
So that bill did become law.
It is sitting on the governor's desk, but it came out of off the floor like it came out of the House 83-14. So I'm certain that he would never even think about vetoing it because if everybody stuck to their vote, they could override it.
Yeah. And so do you think that that's a possibility for Gallatin County? Will we try to change our elections, county elections to
I think there'll be some discussion, and the way it'll work is that they'll have public hearings and then listen to the voters, the citizens, whether or not they want to see that question advanced, and then they would do it through resolution, and then you would see it on the ballot if they choose to do so.
All right, take a break, guys. Bottom of the hour coming up. We've got Fox News, Montana State News. We've got Brooke Foster weather. We got Gazoo with Jacobus, Buffalo Restoration, Murdoch's. We got everyone here. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more right after this. 23 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, May 3rd, 2019, 43 degrees outside. Shaman Tobin on the line in Vancouver, British Columbia. How's your seatbelt law? You got a national seatbelt law up there?
Oh, absolutely. They tag you all the time on the highway for that, baby.
Just for primary? They can pull you over for not having a seatbelt on.
Yeah, $300 fine.
Wow.
Whoa.
There you go.
Well, the House bill.
That's only
Canadian dollars.
Yeah, that's only about 150. That's about 150 here.
That's not a problem.
There you go.
Well, House Bill 49 was coming as close as they were going to come to a seatbelt law for Montana, but it was a study, and it was actually a pilot program. It was going to end up from the study, and the title of it was "Create a Vehicle Occupant Safety Pilot Program."
All right.
No mention of seatbelts, but that's what it was all
that's
about.
What it was, huh?
Yeah. Another one that was interesting, Jennifer, I wanted to bring this up to you. I thought you'd get a kick out of this. I was frustrated that because of the rules that towards the end of the session, you not expect new bills to show up. So a lot of people just, they're really not watching too close. But resolutions and joint studies and things like that can show up at the past deadlines and stuff. And this one was SJ25, and it was by Senator Ellis out of the Helena area. And it was a subdivision study program, deal. There's going to be an interim study between sessions. And a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of work being done between the sessions by committees of legislators. And you got to stay up on that too. But this was a subdivision study proposal, and what the issue was the Subdivision Platting Act took effect in, I think,
1977.
Yeah, I think it was 79 or something. But the Subdivision Platting Act says if anything that if you want to carve up land less than 160 acre parcels, you have to go through subdivision review. Originally, it was 10 acres, and then it turned to 20 acres. So what this bill was aimed at, it says, we've got a lot of land divisions that were created before the Subdivision and Platting Act, and the fact that those divisions of lands, people out there own 10 acres, and they're interested in whether she was trying to generate some interest in examining that people built their houses on 10-acre tracts and 5-acre tracts because there was no subdivision planning act, so there was no review. So you could have a house that had been out there since 1960 and sitting on a tract of land. Everybody's happy. It's got the well and septic and all of this. But they wanted to examine what kind of things should we start maybe imposing on those landowners because they never went through subdivision review, and which could translate into maybe we should do some retroactive subdivision review of parcels that were created before there was even a subdivision and plating act.
How could that even be legal, actually?
Your question, I was wondering what your question would be, and your question and your facial expression was the same as a number of people on the committee of both parties. Says, well, what are you trying to accomplish here? Well, we're really not trying to accomplish anything. We just want to look at it, just study it. And of course, government is really good at studying things.
I know. I want to start a business just to study. You pay me and I'll go study it.
It's a full-time business studying the government. But the point of this was I think everybody could see through it that, no, you really want to do something. You want to do something with these landowners. They're all, up against county roads, or they're, who knows, their septic system maybe isn't current with today's regulations or whatever, but it would open up the door to just start marching onto people's land and starting to do full-scale studies, and there'd be new departments and all this. I had no idea how this could ever be accomplished. And
I thought we were broke, or pretty close to broke.
Well, I'll tell you, the committee, this is one of those rare instances where oftentimes and as a citizen, you go over there, you testify, and the proponents, opponents, and then that's the end of it. They end up the hearing with questions, and that's it, and they move to the next bill, and then decisions within a week or so. And this was one of those cases where they pretty much got done hearing and there were proponents to it. They got all done with all of the testimony, and they killed it right there, real quick.
All right.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere. So
yeah, but we're gonna kill this conversation because we got to take a break.
Really?
So absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we're chock.
I stretched it too far.
You stretched it too far. We're chock full this part of the hour. So we'll be right back after these very important words. It is 15 minutes for the top of the hour, Friday, May 3rd, 2019. 44 degrees outside. Shaman Tallman, half man, half amazing. My co-host, Tommy Galoff, the Morning Mayor. Jennifer Bordy, Law Babe, is in the house, and Steve White, badbills.com, and we're kind of reviewing the bills that passed or didn't pass in the last legislative session that just ended a week ago. So, guys, continue on.
Well, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that if they really have a real need to use straws with their drink in Montana, that everything's okay. They can continue to use
straw
straws.
ban.
The straw ban bill
and you can
failed.
still get plastic bags at the grocery store.
You still get plastic bags at the grocery store, but the straw ban failed. And
styrofoam too.
Styrofoam,
right?
House Bill 165. That bill failed to outlaw or start phasing out styrofoam cups.
And Maine just did that, I believe. Maine just passed
some states
their
are out there
law.
doing it.
Yeah,
I think there's a number of states.
And I think McDonald's said they were going to. Paper straws, and McDonald's straws are selling on eBay for close to $1,000.
Crazy.
So, if you got any old McDonald's straws out there,
if you're thinking ahead, grab the stuff and head to Maine.
That's right. You may want to start. You may start saving your McDonald's refuge.
Yeah. Well, what distinguishes them as McDonald's straws? I don't remember them.
Maybe they're in a McDonald's
well,
as
Shade will tell you, the stuff you throw away is more valuable than the stuff you eat.
I will warn people that maybe they added some things to the Maine law that if you are caught driving into Maine with the straws and styrofoam cups, it's contraband.
Whoa!
They'll probably bust you. So what are you going to do with these straws, youngster? Well, okay. Also, too, I know that Shane, this is dear to his heart, that the Montana did not pass the bill for a state rock and roll song.
Yeah, there you are.
So, sorry about that.
The Billings guy, yeah.
Yeah, the Billings guy.
Darn, but we did pass the bill some time ago
Hickey
to have a
breaky.
state weed, right?
Yeah. Oh, we had a state butterfly, one request for state butterfly, and that didn't go anywhere. We had two bills for taking Montana into year-round daylight savings time and not daylight savings time, and both of those bills failed. The online voter registration bill failed. There's been quite a few bills that the governor wanted. One in particular that was a big deal for our governor was House Bill 755, which was to revise the pre-kindergarten laws, and the pre-K bill failed. That nobody knew if it was really going to fail until the last minute of the legislative session, because there's a lot of pressure being put onto it. But with that, when that failed, was also the funding for what was in existence out there as it is now. So, there was a lot of bills that were related to taxing. There was a gateway bill, and what that was that it was a local tax, option tax, that was designed just for counties that butted up against the national parks, and because that they could have a lot of effect from tourists that were going to be, coming through their county into the park, and that bill failed. There was a bill though that did pass that related to taxes, and then that was Senate Bill 241, and that's a resort tax, and that, I think it bumps up the resort tax for the purposes of infrastructure. And actually, that got a lot of bipartisan support across the aisle. And the reason was it's a very unique design in that it's not just a tax because they want to tax tourists coming into the resort tax, and we can just say it's Big Sky in Gallen County because they're not a town. But the way it's designed was that you have to define what infrastructure you're asking the voters to have this tax for, whether it's water or sewer or whatever. And you set out in clarity as to what it is you're going to spend the money on. And when that project is done, that tax goes away. And that makes sense, because that doesn't mean that you can just get an extra $1 million a year. I think Big Sky on their resort tax, I think, gets $7.5 million a year. And I think this adds over $1 million a year. And they need that money for their water and sewer systems up there. So if they choose to do this and go to their tax district for this, then they have to define what it's going to be used for, and when that is achieved, then they can pull it back, which, it's kind of an unusual thing to see happen.
Before you go, we got to take a break.
Oh, no, that's fine. You weren't waving over there, so
I know.
Usually you're waving.
Trying to keep you on track here, because this is a long one, so we got to get it in.
I'll be back.
All right, we do have the Rush update back. Guess what? So I'm so excited. I don't know what to do. All right, we'll be right back after Rush and some other stuff.
Is that the rock and roll song?
That's the rock and roll song that failed.
That could have been your state rock and roll song, right next to the Bitterroot Flower.
There you go, the hippy dippy shake. I didn't realize till I looked it up that Montana has a state song, a state ballad, and a state lullaby.
We have a state lullaby?
Oh, there you are.
Save that for another show. Why would anybody want this to be the state rock and roll?
Because it was done by a student in Billings.
Yeah. That was a big deal.
I do remember reading about that.
Back in the 70s, yep. So that was why we wanted it. We've got a caller waiting on the phone. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, thanks for waiting. You're on the air with Jennifer and Steve. What's up?
Yeah, I want to talk to that law babe.
Okay, law babe's on you.
Okay, two things I'd like you to address real quickly. One of them, the Democrats keep crying for impeachment. Impeach the president, impeach William Barr, or whatever, Bob. Anyway, does anything meet any minimum standard for an impeachable offense? Anything that they've done or anything that the Democrats have found? That's one issue I'd like you to address real quick. But the second one, this quid pro quo, you know, you get so many bills and they have so many different like writers attached, and you have someone say, well, I didn't want to vote for that, but I had to vote for that bill because of this that was in the bill, even though it had this bad act. Why don't they have something for the legislators instead of just, you know, the governor having a line item veto? Why do they do that when you have things that you want to pass that you know are necessary, like military spending and stuff, you know, with the federal government, but then they attach other things that you don't like, but you got to pass the bill because, well, I do want to support the military or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Can't they do something about that and change that system, you know, and then the impeachment thing, so.
Well, I don't know if I can answer both those questions in the time we have left. As far as impeachment goes, I would say this. It's in the eye of the beholder. Mm-hmm. If they want to find something that they think they can impeach a president on, mm-hmm. then they're probably going to do it. But actually, I'm getting the impression the Democrats, even though they are still saying, let's impeach.
I don't think
but they're taking their time looking at something that nothing will have any chance of success because
they're all going to be out campaigning too.
They can impeach, but it's up to the Senate to convict. Then, so
the part I've always had a problem with impeachment is misdemeanors.
Well, high crimes and misdemeanors. That's
misdemeanors seem like parking violations, or
it actually.
And one thing I might add, really quick, and Montana is much different than the U.S. government, fortunately, with the way bills are put together. You can't put all those little things into a Montana bill. It has to be
little riders.
Has to be in the title, and they don't allow you to mess around with those things. When you get to the federal government, no, they can put in this for South Carolina, this for Florida. They can do all sorts of stuff, but that does not happen in Montana.
All right, say goodbye, Shane.
Goodbye, Mayor. Thank you for everyone that visited, and everyone be happy, safe this weekend.
All right, thanks much, man. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for all the info and all that. And
thank you very much, Tom. And it's a gorgeous day out there. You guys got to get out there.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks to Jennifer. Thanks to Steve White and badbills.com. And we'll see everybody bright and early, 6 a.m. Monday morning.